We are on the hunt for a new minimum spec graphics card. At the moment, the 1066GB has been the recommendation, but we think that's coming to the end of its recommendedness because it's just not really holding up that well in Lorville with the clouds. So I bought loads of graphics cards. We're going to test them over the next few weeks. This week, a very interesting test. A complete fail on the looking for a new minimum spec GPU, but actually brought up some really interesting stuff. So let's get into it. The test system is this. We've got a 5800X3D, which is so fast that it eliminates basically any CPU bottlenecks in this testing. And then we've got 32 gigs of RAM, NVMe, Windows 11, all that malarkey. And the main thing is that today we've got a 5500XT 4GB versus a 5500XT 8GB, just to see, does it make any difference to performance? And as you'll see, it does actually make quite a lot of difference. So let's get into the testing. First up, we've got space. And as you'll see, we are basically hitting the same frames as the 1066GB. We've not seen any improvement. So already my graphics card buying, spending hundreds of pounds, has gone slightly wrong. I was intending to buy graphics cards that would be an improvement over the 1066GB, but these are not. But as we say, there will be some interesting testing coming on, which makes this all actually worthwhile doing. Next up, we'll get into quantum travel. Here you'll see that actually the two AMD cards are actually performing worse than the 1066GB. But again, this isn't the interesting stuff, but they're not going to be the recommended new minimum spec GPU. They're just not fast enough. Next, Area 18, we'll get into the cities. You'll see again, they're slightly trailing behind the 1066GB. This is a fine result. You'll be fine with this. And actually, this scene in particular is where you get 30 FPS. But as you kind of move around Area 18, you do get higher frames. So it's pretty playable so far. Next, on the rooftops of Orizon with the clouds on medium. Now, this is a hint of what's about to come in the Lorville results. You'll see there that the 4GB version of this card has got something going on with their 1% lows. It's slightly behind the 8GB version, but effectively they're not far off really. It's just the 1% lows that are the problem. And again, the 1066GB is just ahead. So let's get into the key part of this video and what's really interesting. As you'll see here at Lorville, we've got a problem. The 8GB card isn't good. It's the same as the 1066GB effectively, but the 4GB version is really struggling. We've dropped basically nearly 10 FPS, and the 1% lows are in the complete floor. It's terrible, and that doesn't really actually give the full picture. When I've done a load of testing, if you can get around these cities at like 20 FPS, that is playable. Even 15 FPS is playable, but there were large sections of every single run with the 5500XT where it was at like 6 FPS or 7 or 8. And my suspicion, and I think the only thing it can be, because same clock speeds, everything like that, is that the 4GB were not working and the memory was having to be swapped out in and out, and it just was a complete mess. It was unplayable I'm pretty generous when I talk about being playable. I talk about being Star Citizen playable, that you can play on this game, but this was completely unplayable. When I've tested Nvidia cards in the past, they've coped okay at 4GB, but it seems as though something potentially is going on with AMD cards or something in the memory management is happening where when you go to 4GB, you just can't play the game. I've done some testing in the past with other AMD cards, and they were also had areas where they'd really drop off, really low frames, and I assume it's the same sort of thing. I think the 4GB on the AMD side just doesn't seem to work. What I'd really love is people with these cards to tell me their experience. See, are you getting these sort of frames in the cities? Because it's either a bug, and it's just something that CIG need to fix. It's just an architecture thing for the AMD cards, or it's potentially maybe it'll be something that might be fixed as CIG moves across to Vulkan, because they've talked about how they are going to be much more explicit in how they manage the memory, and they're going to give us many more options in terms of managing the memory ourselves, the VRAM. So this might not last, but at the moment you've got to say 4GB cards, at least these AMD ones, there is a significant drop off in performance when you switch to when you go from 8GB to 4GB. 6GB seems to be fine on the Nvidia side, but we'll see. We're going to test some more cards in the next few weeks, and we're going to see how it goes. You'll see here as well, because some people have said, what are you talking about with all this? If you just turn the clouds off, the frames will be better, and as you'll see here, they are better, and there is no denying that. I think it's questionable whether you would want to turn the clouds off, because they are pretty, although at medium they're not that pretty. I don't know how long CRG will even give us the option to keep them turned off. They may, as time goes on, just take that option away, because the look of the game changes significantly. So I think for now we're going to aim for a minimum spec with them on medium, but again, if you've got one of these cards, or if you just really don't want to spend any more money, you can get away with a 1066GB in Lorville with the clouds off completely. So I think that's fair to say, but we are aiming, in my opinion, we're going to go for medium clouds as the minimum spec. Well, that's what we're aiming for. So there we go, a load of thoughts about this one. Again, please tell me your thoughts about how if you've got any of these lower end graphics cards or 4GB graphics cards, how your performance is. And again, over the next few weeks, we've now got, this has been a kind of 4GB versus 8GB test. Next week should be a DDR5 versus DDR6 test, so that will be interesting to see as well. We've got the, can I remember the names? I think it's the 1660 versus the 1660 Super. So one of them has got, they're identical cards, but one of them's got DDR5 and one of them's got DDR6. And so we'll see how much difference does that make as well. I'm hoping that those cards will be slightly above this. And then we've got the 1070 at some point. And then by the looks of things, I'm going to have to find a slightly more powerful AMD version as well, because I don't want to just look at Nvidia cards. So there we go, that's enough of this one. Thank you for watching, see you soon, bye.